All right, 1 second here. All right, 1 second. I want to do that. All right, oops. Yeah, 1 second here. Oh. All right, want to welcome everyone. This class on Pirke Avos. Again, want to welcome everyone to this class on Pirke Avos, Ethics of Our Fathers. As it is known, we are holding by chapter 2, Mishna 13. Still in the 13th Mishna, we're going to be there for a while. And this is part number 10. So the Mishnah says, we're just going to recap here, drop what the Mishnah says. Mishnah says that he said to them, go out and discern what's the proper way to which a person should cling, which a person should go, a person should do, etc. And we spoke quite a bit about the fact that Rabbi Lezer says a good eye. What does it mean? That a person should have a good eye. And we're still in the middle of speaking about what Rabbi Yeshua says. Rabbi Yeshua says, a good friend. So we mentioned last week this idea that a good friend is not somebody who just says, who's like a yes person. In other words, if they see, God forbid, person, let's say, spiraling out of control, doing the wrong thing, they should rebuke them. Why should they rebuke them? Now, we spoke about giving rebuke. That's a whole discussion in of itself, right? But the idea about giving rebuke is the fact that you show you care. If you didn't give rebuke, if you didn't say, what are you doing? You're wasting your life over here. You're doing this, doing that. You're doing the other thing. These things are bad, right? These things are bad. And these things will have a negative effect. So if they have a negative effect, so why are you telling them, right? You're telling them not because you just want to, you want to demolish them, so to speak. Why are you telling them? You're telling them because you care, right? You're giving them rebuke, 100% because you care. You don't want to see them make mistakes. You don't want to see them, go down the wrong path, etc. You want to help them, right? You want to help them stay in the right path, right? Go in the right path. Now, giving rebuke, obviously, you're doing it not to knock them down. And a lot of times, I would say, a person doesn't want to hear it. They doesn't matter who gives it over. They don't want to hear they do anything wrong, right? They don't want to, people don't want to hear it. And, sometimes it's hard to hear when a person does the wrong thing. We do live in what I would call a Teflon generation, right? A cream puff generation. We're living in a weak generation. So, nobody wants to hear they do anything wrong. If it comes along, Moiver Rebbe, Rav going to Moshe, this should be well. And his commentary on Pirke Avos, his commentary of Ethics of Our Father says that a good friend does chesed, does acts of loving kindness, right? Acts of loving kindness with a friend, right? And he finds ways to help them, right? In other words, what does a friend do? A friend, will help whenever they can, hopefully. And if they can't, okay, right? But, a friend looks out, for other people, looks out for their friends. And let's say this friend gets rebuked. They rebuke you, for something you did wrong. Could be something more severe, could be something less severe, but let's say they rebuke you, right? They give rebuke over here. Now, giving rebuke, what's their goal? What's their goal in giving rebuke? Their goal in giving rebuke is to help the other person. That's their goal. If what they do is they rebuke, even if they're friends, doesn't matter, right? Obviously, if they're not friends, it wouldn't necessarily apply, right? But it's if they're giving rebuke in order just to put you down, not just to say, oh, I really care, I want to try and help you, this and that. But why are they giving you rebuke? Because they're giving you rebuke, right? They're not looking out for your best interest, right? They're giving you rebuke. Oh, you did this wrong. They want to call you out. They want to call you out. Not because, it could be what you did was bad. Okay. Depending how severe, it doesn't matter. Why are they calling you out? Are they calling you out because they're doing it in order to help you? Or are they calling you out for the simple reason that, they're calling you out for no reason? To make fun of you, say, oh, look, see what we did over here. Oh, you Orthodox Jews, this, that. Not saying necessarily a friend will say that. Right? It depends what type of friend. But, other people, let's say not necessarily our friends, what would they do? Or what possibly could they do? They'll put you on a higher pedestal. They'll say, come on, you're an Orthodox Jew. You represent Torah, whether we like it or not. We represent Torah, okay? So if we do something wrong, even if it's something minor, big problem. Very big problem. Why? Well, we mentioned many times, because that is going to be a desecration of God's name, not according to strict definition. Right? But it'll look bad in the eyes of others. They see, an Orthodox Jew push someone in line. They see someone, not ethic, not, doesn't have proper business ethics, other things. See, they'll look for stuff we do wrong. And even if it's something minor, we'll never get away with it. Not that we should. But we're held to a higher standard, totally higher standard. Now, that being the case, we've got a huge responsibility. Huge. And it gets magnified. Right? It gets magnified to no end. If you put a newspaper headline, right, or a headline over the internet, and you say dog bites man, right? In the headline, you say dog bites man. Okay. Anyone gonna think twice about it? No. That's not news. That's not worthy news. They'll put it out there anyway. So what? They're gonna get tens of thousands of people to see it? No. But okay. Dog bites man. What if they put a headline out there that says man bites dog? Oh, that's a headline. Right? That'll sell papers. That'll sell advertising. Why? Not normal. Something out of the norm. They got a scoop on this story. A person bit a dog. Or whatever. It's just a parable here. Right? But something totally out of the ordinary. Something not normal. That's going to sell papers. That's going to sell space. Right? Why? Because it's not common. It's not common. Now, you tell me, maybe in the Orthodox community, it's become more common. That's a problem. For sure, a problem. But at the same time, when we do something wrong, it gets magnified. Totally gets magnified. Why does it get magnified? Right? Why does it get magnified? Very simple reason. It gets magnified because people say, come on, you're held to a higher standard. You're supposed to keep Torah mitzvahs. So what'd you do over here? How could you've done X, Y, and Z? So I'll tell you what never to say. right? A person said, I heard it, definitely heard it, that, a person gets accused of doing something underhanded, which they did. The person, says to them, come on, you're an Orthodox Jew. How could you do that? And his answer was, which should never, ever, ever be said, and that is, don't put Orthodox Jews on such a high pedestal. Don't think we're not infallible to cheating, stealing, this, that. That's the wrong thing to say. All right, you admit your guilt, you explain that you're sorry, whatever, right? But never say that. That's not gonna, it's not gonna make us look good, right? No question. Or someone else will say, come on, even if I did that, other people do it. That's business. What do you mean that's business? Most business things, according to the Torah prohibition. The laws of Shabbos, many of the laws of Shabbos are rabbinical. Laws of blessings are rabbinical. The laws of business, plenty of people in business, and they don't necessarily learn, business ethics according to the Torah, but the laws of damages, in different things. That they don't learn. Right? But that should be a prerequisite before someone decides to go into business. Because all these are Torah prohibitions, most of them. Everyone goes to learn the laws of Shabbos, very good. Laws of Shabbos come up every week. Laws of blessings come up every day. True. But things in business, yeah, they also may come up every day, and they're Torah prohibition. Potential. Right? So what's the point? So the point is, we have to be impeccable. We have to be impeccable. Does that mean, we're always in the right frame of mind? No. Can a person be in a bad mood and other things happen? Yeah. No matter if it's common, not common, whatever, it can happen. 100% it can happen. What's the point? Well, you're going to say, what? We have to be perfect? We have a high standard to uphold. I've heard many non-Jews say, interested in conversion, will say, wow, it's such an awesome responsibility. Yeah, it is. 100% an awesome responsibility. And I always say, I'm not necessarily out loud, but I'll say to myself, halavai, Jews should say it's an awesome responsibility to be a Jew. Non-Jews, I can understand. Say, look what the Torah says. Look what the obligation is. Not so easy to uphold. There are a lot of things. So we're held to a totally different standard. What happens when we don't uphold that standard? That's, in the vernacular, people say, that's a desecration of God's name. Again, not according to strict definition. It makes us look bad. Right? What Rashi says, the end of the Gemara in Yuma, Rashi says, what's the desecration of God's name? Right? Rashi says that it means a person is going to do something wrong. God forbid, a Jew's going to do something wrong. And others are going to learn from their bad character traits. That's the desecration of God's name. Unfortunately, how many people out there in the world, don't uphold what they're supposed to do? Makes them look bad, makes Jews look bad. Because people don't distinguish between Orthodox Jews, secular Jews, doesn't matter. Right? Hitler, Yamach Shemoy V'Zichroy, may they be blotted out, may rot, wherever he is. When he killed Jews and that was his goal, he didn't care, secular or religious, didn't matter. If he had Jewish blood, doesn't matter if you were Jewish or not, technically, according to the Torah, he didn't care. The secular Jews being rounded up, they said, what do you want from us? Take the Orthodox Jews. They're the ones. They don't eat your food. They don't go to your sporting events. They don't marry your women. They're different. Yeah, and what do the Nazis say? It doesn't matter. We're going to take you with everybody else. Yeah, but we married your women. We fought your wars. We did all these things. They went nuts. People went nuts. Understandably so. Like, what do you want from us? We're just like you. What do the Germans say? What do all the anti-Semites say? You're not like us. You're totally not like us. And they'll make it known. They'll make it known that you're not part of us. It doesn't have to be necessarily through discrimination. But at the same time, they'll make it known. As close as you think you may be, in school, universities, work, different things, they'll make you feel different, right? Now, I'm not going to say all the time, but sometimes, things will come out and you'll say, wow, I can't believe someone just said that. I remember, in public school growing up, and I was in, most of the top classes. So you would think, people more intelligent, they wouldn't say certain things that are, I would say, anti-Semitic, which they were. I don't think there's any question. Yeah, so kind of shocked me. I was like, come on. You have above average intelligence. This is my rationale. You have above average intelligence and you make a low, you make a low blow comment. A below the belt comment. That nothing to do with being a religious Jew at this point. But comments were made. Although it didn't exist. I'm not saying everybody was, was anti-Semitic, but you know what? People make comments. You get reminded. But for a secular Jew, that'll blow their mind. Like, what do you want from me? What does that have to do with anything? I don't do anything with my Judaism anyway. Right? Not religious, whatever, this, that. What does it matter? It matters. Right? To people, it matters. You never fully accept it. That's one of the good things. I'm going to say one of the good things about exile, about being in exile, that a person should never, ever, ever feel too comfortable where they are. And that's one of the lessons learned from the Holocaust. You can never, ever rely on man. That's the thing we have to remember. Can't rely on man. You have a Jewish senator, governor, this, that, doesn't matter. Mankind, you can't rely on. Right? Because everyone asks the question, where was God during the Holocaust? Why did God kill 6 million Jews? Right? You know what the answer is? Well, it takes a lot of people to kill 6 million Jews. Right? You got the Lithuanians, you have the Croatians, you have the Russians, Czechoslovakians, you have the Poles, you have the Germans. I mean, you got a lot of people. A lot of people involved, in destruction of the Jewish people, during the Holocaust. No question. That's not the question. Right? The question is, where was man over here? And people argue, come on. This guy had a lot of power. Who wanted to start up with him? You think America want to get involved? Certainly to save Jews? Never. Why did America get involved? What's the main reason America got involved? In 1941, they got bombed at Pearl Harbor. And they had no choice. Right? If it wasn't for that, they wouldn't have jumped in. Right? The ones they jumped in, okay, it's a different issue now. Now it's going to be the beginning and end. It's going to, eventually the war is going to be over. But before that, they had no intention at all. None. So, America got blood on their hands also. There were a number of boats came to America. They escaped. Send them back to die. They don't want to take refugees. Israel also got plenty of blood on their hands. They could have ransomed tens of thousands of people. Tens of thousands of people they had money to ransom. They didn't want these old, European Jews bringing their old European Judaism to the land of Israel. They wanted young Jews going to build up the land. We don't want this, religious stuff. They weren't interested. Also blood on their hands. Jews could have saved other Jews. They didn't want all this document. Right? So the point over here is, or one point, is we have to remember there's a big boss. There's a big boss who runs the world. Right? He's the one in charge. He's the one calling the shots. We have to realize there's a bigger picture. We don't always understand the bigger picture, but there's a bigger picture. One thing you see, regardless, it's hard to say what the reason is potentially for the Holocaust. Essentially, we don't know. One thing we see, it was a divine decree. So what happened to the rabbi? Why didn't they tell people to leave? Because God blinded them. By the time they figured out what was going on, it was too late. Right? All the borders are sealed. Not only that, no way to defend themselves. They starved them. How are you going to fight against it? Germans did their homework. They knew exactly what they were doing. Exactly what they were doing. And God allowed it up until a point. And eventually stopped it. Now, there could be, a number of reasons why potentially it happened. We don't know. But this is one thing we learned. You cannot rely on man. You can't rely on man for anything. Now, does that mean I don't put my best foot forward? No. The Bible says, duties of the heart, I got to put my best foot forward. Always have to put my best foot forward. But you have to remember, putting your best foot forward is not a guarantee for success. Now, this throws people off also. They say, I don't get it. If I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing the other thing. Why is the thing? The answer is no. So what's the answer? I don't know. Make it easy. We don't necessarily know, but people think, okay, I tried this, I tried that, tried the other thing. You still could get a goose egg, get a 0. The reason is God wants you to suffer some more. He wants you to think. He wants you to work hard. He wants you to have proper faith in him. Whatever it is. But just because I put my best foot forward, people think, oh, I'm going to get the end result. Who says? Who says we're going to get the end result? The end result that we desire. And even if we get it, why do we get it? Why do we get it? Because God allowed us to get it. We're not going to see it that way. Some people are not going to see it that way. Some people say, I did this, I did that. I changed this, I changed that. And look, things changed. Very good. Right? But ultimately, why did it change? Ultimately, it changed for one reason. And the reason is because God wanted it. God wanted it to change. Right? I'll give an example. Give one example. I know someone that, spent their career, what they do for work, they're a lawyer. I don't remember exactly what type of lawyer. But never seemed to have a lot of money. All right, I think I say all lawyers make money. Whatever, they make good money, usually. Right? So say, why does this person not make so much money? You'll say, the way he ran his business. You'll say it's the way he spoke to others. You'll say, 15 other reasons why. Now, some of these reasons may be true. They very well may be true, but that's not the reason. Because even if a person has a bad, bedside manner and other things, they could not be very bright, but they can still make a lot of money. You know why? Because God wants them to make money. He's the X factor, big X factor. And we live in a generation today that it's all about what I do. It's all about my actions, not God driven. It's about what I do. The work of my hands. Yeah, but who says that's a guarantee? They'll say, I did this, I did that, I did the other thing. Okay. And some other people did the same thing and they didn't do as well. Why not? Oh, I better advertise. I have better people working for me. I did that. They'll come up with 100 reasons why. Now, it could be some of them are true. I'm not going to say not. Maybe it is. Maybe they have better advertising, better speakers, this, better product. Could be. Not arguing that. Very well could be. But even with all that, there's an X factor. And what's the X factor? It's God himself. And if God does not declare you're going to be successful, he's going to help you, that's it. You're stuck. It's going to be forever? No. Could be for a long time. Could be, until God, changes his mind. Until God wants to see you succeed or bring you out from this burden. Is there a time frame? We have no idea. The mistake is we think it's all on us. It's everything I do. And the answer is nothing doing what we do. Doesn't mean I don't have to try. Right? The Chosel Love said you got to put your best foot forward. That is true. But putting your best foot forward is no guarantee. Zero guarantee. But people make that mistake. I did this. I did that. I did the other thing. Right? I heard somebody say, and you can't make this stuff up. Heard it with my own ears. And that is, I became who I am despite my parents. Right? So, okay, what does that mean? What does that mean exactly? Despite their parents. Let's say parents, weren't the best parents per se. Gave them other problems, this and that over the years. But their claim is, I did all this, I became successful despite my background. Okay. Right? That's the claim. But see, there's one problem. And that would seem to say, I became who I am despite my parents, like my parents had nothing to do with anything. Like they themselves took themselves out of the womb. This is ego, or ego, as we would say here in Israel, up to the highest degree. Right? That's saying everything revolves around me. I did everything. Well, really? So when you were born, you took care of yourself. You took care of all your needs. You went out, you were paving the streets, making tons of money. No. You had to be changed. You had plenty of things parents had to do, to raise a person. I'm not saying all the parents out there are great parents. Well, that doesn't matter. Right? Bottom line, they're the ones to take care of your needs. Some will do it better, some worse. It's irrelevant. They take care of your needs. So you wouldn't be anywhere without your parents. And the parents are messed up. Still, you wouldn't be in this world. That's a whole nother question. So why am I with these parents? Right? Mishna Pirke Avos says, you're born against your will, you die against your will. So Kaufman would say, you put in parentheses, you still have to live. Did we ask who our parents are? No. Were we given a choice? No. Siblings? No. Relatives? No. Socioeconomic situation? No. None of these things. We're not in control of any of it. Right? Our soul gets cajoled by God himself. He put the spirit in life. So God knows which soul to put in which body. Why? You got to ask him. Why do I have to go through this and that and the other thing? We don't know. We don't know. It's what our soul has to go through. Right? So at the end of the day, whatever goes on in our lives, right? We'll say a lot of it has to do with what we do, true. But there are a lot of things we're not in control of. Totally not in control. And if we're not in control, there's something else going on. Right? That we have to understand. But back to our point here. Back to our point is when a person gets rebuked, they get rebuked by a friend. We're not talking about just getting rebuked by anybody. Right? It's very easy to, someone doesn't know you to say something. Very, very easy. Right? Because like, what do they call it? Water off a duck's back. That's what it is. They make a comment, they don't care, right? They don't have any connection to you whatsoever. And they'll say something. Right? Some will, some won't. Some people will say something and they'll get rebuked. The way you said something, the way you drove, a million things. A million different things. You didn't ask for that. Totally didn't ask for that. Right? So it's an interesting thing. Right? I've gotten this question before. Right? Question comes up and someone will say, someone will say, well, something happened, a person did this to me. Person said that. Does that mean I did something wrong? Well, a person has to remember as well. Person has to remember that whatever happens, that person, if they did something wrong, and they're going to be liable for what they did. So a person has to remember, okay, so what's the message here? Right? God is giving us a message. He's using that person as the message. Because God has a lot of messengers at his disposal. That being said, We run after, if a person hit a dog with a stick, the dog goes after the stick, not the person wielding the power, not the person wielding the stick. So someone causes us damage. Who are we jumping up and down against? The person who caused damage. Now, someone's going to ask, what? They're not guilty? How can they not be guilty? They caused damage, right? Even if God is using them. So what? You don't have free will? You have free will. Everybody has free will. Could be free will is limited to a certain extent, but we all have free will. So if we all have free will, that person's guilty. If they cause us damage, they're guilty. Very good. But God can use them to get to us. Even if God uses them as a messenger and they cause the damage, they're guilty. Right? But who do we, if someone saw at the corner of their eye, there's a stop sign. They're supposed to go straight. They have the right of way. And they see someone with a head in their phone or they're texting. What happens? All of a sudden they see the stop sign, bam, right? They're into your car. No one's saying cause so much damage. We're going so fast. What's the first thing you do? You get out of the car once it's safe. What's the first thing you do? You go over there and berate the person. Scream at the person. You saw them at the corner of your eye. Text. And let's say you didn't see them. All of a sudden, you see someone, boom, barrel right into you. Totally barrel into you. Doesn't matter why they weren't paying attention. Who cares? Right? What's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to yell and scream at the person. Nothing to talk about. Nothing to talk about. Nothing on the Chos Avos. The Chos Avos says duty is the heart. No, it's a mistake. Total mistake. You got to realize everything's being orchestrated over here. God's coming to you to hit you in your pocket. Maybe hit you in the body also. So the person, God is using like a stick. He's just using them to get to you. Very good. So why are you yelling at the person? Why are you yelling at the stick? Why didn't you get the message? What's the answer? That's our nature. We call that, in the vernacular, we call that a knee-jerk reaction. That's a knee-jerk reaction. The Bible says, not only are you not supposed to do that, I don't know, how many people in this world today holding by such a thing. But he says everybody has to be holding by it. And that is, what's your obligation? Your obligation after this happens is to run up to the person, give him a big hug and say, I want to thank you so much for helping me work on my anger. You're going to say, come on. Who in the world is holding by such a thing? Who's holding by such a thing? Chos Avos does not ask that question. There are a number of times he brings out, people think this is only for the righteous. This is only for the righteous of generation. Not saying that. Right? Chos Avos says not true. This is not for some high Kabbalistic level and whatever, you're going to change the world. Change the spiritual world and all this. Forget about that. We live in this world. Person caused me damage. Right? You got to hug them and say, thank you. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. Yeah. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. Working on all these bad character traits we have. Right? What's everybody going to say? It's not for us. It's not for this world. Chos Avos, wrote this 300 years ago, 400 years ago, whatever. It's not talking to a different generation. He's talking to a whole different group of people. Doesn't say that. He says this for everyone. Thing I say, that's very hard. A lot of things hard in life, right? We're here to struggle. That's what we're here for, right? We're here to work hard, right? So the point, without getting lost in all my parables here, right? The point is that we're talking about a friend who gives rebuke. A friend who gives rebuke. So when a friend gives rebuke over here, we hope that their goal is to help us, to look out for our best interests, right? If they're giving rebuke just to make us look bad or feel bad, yeah, well, you're going to find other friends, right? That friend's not going to be such a good friend, right? But if their goal is genuine and they're looking out for our best interests, what's our knee-jerk reaction? What's the person's normal reaction? Who are you? Right, get out of my face. What are you telling me? I should do this or I should do that. You know why? Because sometimes we hear rebuke. We hear things we do wrong, and we might say deep down they're right. But we also have an ego. We don't want to say I did anything wrong. Right? So who wants to hear rebuke? Who in the world wants to hear rebuke? I don't think too many people. I mean, we're not going to sugarcoat it over here, but not too many people. Even if they say it in the nicest way. Right? Between spouses, it's hard. You know, things can get elevated. You know, be loud discussions, different things. But if it's coming from the right place, you know, they're able to cushion it in a way. You're not saying, hey, stupid, why'd you just do this? Or why'd you say that? Well, first of all, don't call them stupid. Second of all, you know, it's the way it's said. Now, even if it's said in the nicest way, even if it's said in the nicest, softest way, yeah, I understand this is hard for you. I understand, whatever it is, but that's not the reaction. You can't react like that. You can't say that. You can't do that because it's going to have, it's going to cause tremendous damage. Could cause tremendous damage. Now, even if it's said in such a way, coming from the purest of hearts, a person still may not want to hear it. They still may be totally defensive. They can say, but look what they did over here. Look what they did. Maybe sometimes you have to yell at them, and say, listen, what you did over here. And then what happens, right? Person yells at a kid. Let's say they deserve it for what they did. And then they just start bawling, right? They say, oh, now it's your fault, right? Because you yelled at them for something that they did wrong, right? This is, catch-22 for a parent. A very hard thing. Someone did something very annoying, could be something egregious. What's the knee-jerk reaction? You yell at them. Now, should we yell at our kids? No. Is it human to yell at your kids? It's human. Is it a good thing? No. Is anger a good thing ever? No. In general. So you're going to say, but, I didn't get so much sleep and it caused all kinds of problems and this and that, and you react. Now, a person has to remember, if a person reacts under fire, so to speak, they don't think, they're just whatever. They're just angry, lack of sleep, and a million things. All right. And then you do it. You don't necessarily do it on purpose. You did it, that's how you reacted. But see, the reaction over here, the reaction is that, the reaction's the wrong reaction. Why is the wrong reaction? It's the wrong reaction because look at the far-reaching ramifications. Now, what's the kid going to think? Every time he speaks to you, you're going to yell at him. You're going to yell at them for, they dropped something and broke it. Oh, going to get screamed at. Right? Oh, this happened. There can be far-reaching ramifications. Now, for a parent to say, listen, I shouldn't have yelled. Don't worry about it. It's okay. That can soften the blow after the fact. Doesn't make you look like a wuss, as I would say. Right? Doesn't make you look like a wuss over here, but you admit you made a mistake. Shouldn't have overreacted. Totally shouldn't have overreacted. And a person can have kids that are overly sensitive. And if they're overly sensitive, even if you have to rebuke, it's like walking on eggshells. Right? You'll say, well, it's better not to rebuke in such a case. Sometimes you have to, even if they're overly sensitive. Put an arm around them, say, listen, I know you didn't mean it. I know you weren't thinking, but this isn't the way to act and, whatever. They still, could burst out crying because they're overly sensitive, but sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes you got to say something anyway. At the same time, you have to know who you're dealing with. And people can cause unbelievable damage for a long time. It could be something the kid never gets over. They need therapy to get over. In a different way. That's one of the reasons they say, I think the Rambam brings out that, obviously it's not good to be angry. But even if you have to discipline a child and you have to show them the severity of what they've done, you can fake anger. But he says you got to be very careful. Have to be extremely careful. Because even fake anger can trigger real anger. Another thing, even if a parent, just on this topic, even if a parent has to discipline a child, whatever they discipline the child with, the crime, whatever the discipline is, it has to fit the crime. If a child gets punished for something, whatever, let's say they deserve to be punished, doesn't matter, right? They deserve to be punished, but they get punished in a most severe way. That doesn't fit the crime. They're not going to understand the message. So, one thing for sure is, and this is very hard, because we're so busy and, in other ways, that a person should never discipline out of anger. You got to let the anger subside before you discipline. Or at least, I don't know, they say, before you're going to say anything, you're about to explode, take 10 deep breaths, 5 deep breaths, take 10 seconds, just to get it out, without saying anything before you're going to react. Because if you don't do that, you react in a split second, it could be the same as taking a gun and shooting the person. Right? That you got to be careful. Because, the Mishna says, Pirke Avos, you don't speak to someone when they're angry. You let the anger subside. Because if you try and speak to them, the Gemara says that hell could be underneath them and, they're still going to be angry. The pit of hell could be there, still going to be angry. So you got to say, well, there are different levels of anger. Okay. Maybe that's true. But in general, the Gemara says when a person's angry, they lose all sense of reality. Even if they know I should be doing this, I should be saying this, I got to work this out, whatever it is. If it's inside of them at that moment, so, and a person on the outside sees, stay away. You don't say anything. Even if you think you have a right to, you wait. Because and this is good advice. And, most people know if they've ever been in an argument with someone and the other person gets really angry, they don't hear anything. They just get angrier. Even if you're right, it doesn't matter if you're right or not. It's irrelevant. It's like adding kerosene to the fire. Again, does that mean a person has to be abused and yelled at and screamed at? No. Doesn't mean that. Right? Or, if someone is rip-roaring mad, you're trying to diffuse the situation. And B, even if you want to, take a practical stand and this and that, you wait. You got an obligation to wait. Because if you don't wait, it's going to get worse. Because the person won't be able to hear it. They have to be in a certain frame of mind. The person's angry, they're not in a normal frame of mind. Right? The Gemara already said, more than 2,000 years ago, if the pit of hell and they hear people screaming, and they can feel the heat or this or that, and that's not going to change them, that's not going to change their mood, nothing will. But even if a person, has to discipline a child, never discipline a child out of anger. That's the first thing. You want to soften the blow a little bit. You have to explain to them at their age, whatever age, We understand you did this, you didn't mean to do it, or you got carried away, something happened. You have to be able to explain to them in their language. In the language they understand. Now someone's going to say, come on, kids are 2-year-olds. 2-year-olds understand. 2-year-olds understand. They understand yes and no. They're a lot brighter than we think in many ways. Right? So they don't understand this, that. They do. But you have to explain it to them in their language. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to use your brother or sister like a soccer ball. It hurts. It hurts. So maybe you want to make it a little more graphic and say, well, what if I would do this to you? Wouldn't that hurt? No, but that's different. I can do it to them. No, you can't. Your brother or sister's not in football. Right? They're just not. So, but you have to explain it in language they understand. Right? So you say, well, that sounds so easy. It doesn't matter if it's not so easy or not. Kid is banging his brother over the head, you stop him. Can cause serious damage. You got to explain. You can't do that. They're going to understand it to a certain extent. But he did this to me. Okay, so now has to be disciplined. You got to be sort of the referee over here. Even if his brother did something, doesn't mean he's got a right to do it back or worse. Right? Some will say certain things like that. You just gotta, you gotta stand back. You gotta let them get it out. And others will say absolutely not. Songs by Victor Miller, blessed memory, recently. Right? He said, should we, someone asked the question, should we start, should we stand back, when our kids fight and this and that? And he said, absolutely not. Then you got to stop it. And not a question just someone's going to get hurt or this and that. They don't know what they're doing. They're just angry. That's how they manifest their anger. Okay. I mean, it's right. Right, but you don't stop back. You don't sit back and say, okay, well, let them duke it out. Let's see what's going to be over here. You got to stop it. Right? He said, clear, you got to stop it. So parenting is a hard thing. Parenting is a very hard thing over here. And, I heard someone say, it's a common thing, that said, when should a person start learning about parenting, right? Or how to parent their kids, right? So what's the answer? 20 years before they're born. Like, come on, how can you parent without, so far in advance? Biologically speaking, and we'll keep this clean, all things being equal, not so hard to have a child in general, right? No complications, right? Very good. So anyone can be a parent. Doesn't mean they can be a good parent. And these things have been lost. So a lot of the books out there today, this is definitely 20 years ago more, people are already saying, a lot of the books, out in the market, a lot of them are self-help books. I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do the other thing. And something that's got lost along the way, parenting. Why did parenting get lost? Or let's say better, where does the person know how to parent in general when they get older? They'll see what the parents do. Right now, if parents made a lot of mistakes, they'll say, well, I don't want to learn from those mistakes. I don't want to make the same mistakes. Okay. But if you would ask, in the secular world, and I grew up, as a kid among adults. So this might not be, good proof or not. You can take it with a grain of salt. But the secular Jewish world, I never heard such a thing of parents reading parenting books. If there were parenting books, or, say Dr. Spock was very big, right? But I never knew, say contemporaries of my parents, I can't say 100%, or maybe 60%. So again, you can take it with a grain of salt. But I never heard parents, parents taking parenting course or reading parenting books. Now, does that mean they didn't? Again, I'm not going to say with with 70% certainty. My guess is, though, from what I saw, that wasn't the case. The books that they read, in their spare time were not about this. They say, but you don't know. Okay, but I saw enough. I heard enough to know that I think that's the case. Yeah. They read parenting books? No, they'd ask their friends, what do you do about this, that? Yeah, my kid did this, my kid said that, whatever. But a parenting book, a parenting class? No, unheard of. Unheard of. So where do most people get their ideas, whether they're good or bad? Where do they get their ideas about parenting from? Their parents. Rav Akiva Tat should be well. He, as a cousin, his name was Simcha Wasserman, blessed memory. Simcha Wasserman, one of the sons of Rebbe Chanan. Hashem Yikam Dama, God should avenge his blood. And was a famous student of the Chofetz Chaim, head of the yeshiva Baranovich. And Simcha Wasserman never merited to have children. He had a lot of students, but he never merited to have children. So Rabbi Tatz asked him, he once asked him, he said, how can it be? How can it be you're a world expert, people call you all over the world and ask you about parenting tips? How can it be you're a world expert in parenting, you never had kids? Right? So a lot of things, you could say, maybe it's in theory, maybe like this, maybe like that, but you never had kids. I kind of point a question here, right? How can you be a world expert if you didn't have kids? So Simcha answered him, because I saw how my parents raised us. I learned all my parenting, and what parenting's all about from my parents, without having kids. Right? So today's a lost art. It's been a lost art for a while. That's why there are a lot of, there are a lot of good, Jewish parenting books out of the market. Definitely true. But it was needed. 100% it was needed because something was lost. Because where do people get their, parenting from? From their parents. But when, the parents, something got lost. The translation. Something got lost. Right? So certainly today's generation, or even, let's say, 30 years ago, more, and all these parenting books coming out. Because that's what people needed. In parenting classes, different things. Now, is that a guarantee your kids are going to turn out the way you want? No. Very complex parsha here. This generation. Every generation, right? Raising kids is hard. Each generation has their challenges. Rebbe Chanan, again, Hashem Yikam Damo, he wrote a small pamphlet called The Epics of the Messiah. He was talking about, generation before the Messiah comes. And one of the things he said over there, they're losing tens of thousands. Religious kids from the best families. What are we losing them to? Communism. Socialism. Democracy. The secular world, secular involvement. That was something that, before the Holocaust, taking tens of thousands of kids away. So that was the trial for that generation. One of the trials for this generation is that there's a lot of wealth, tremendous amount of wealth in the Jewish community. And with wealth, one of the tests of wealth is, A, are you going to help other people? Right? That's the test. You have money, you should help others. There's a test of poverty as well. Right? Are you going to be thankful to God for whatever little you have? It's also a test. But we'll get back to wealth. It's already predicted in the Torah, book of Deuteronomy, that it's going to be a generation that's going to have unbelievable amount of money. But what are they going to do? They're going to forget about God. They're going to kick God in the teeth. Kick God in the head, so to speak. What do they need God for? They have wealth. Right? The question is how you use it. Right? So we're living probably in the richest generation in the history of man. Some have it better, some have not. But no one's like living on the streets and starving. Right? In most cases. And even if they're suffering and even if they're poor, there are a lot of organizations helping people. You're not going to have a lack of food. No one's going to starve to death. Right? In general. Certainly not in the Jewish community. So, okay. But at the same time, there's an ambivalence. There's an ambivalence to Torah mitzvahs. There are tremendous amount of people sitting and learning, educating their kids and all that. There's a lot of good, tremendous amount of good. You have communities exploding like no tomorrow, in different places. Girls' schools, boys' schools, like, the whole thing. Kashrut got, exploding. It's unbelievable. But there's also the test of complacency. The test of complacency is, they're not living inspired. They're just going through the motions. But it's more than that, because the pull of the secular world is very strong. Very strong to the point that I'm going to say in the modern Orthodox community, because it's not so prevalent in the ultra-Orthodox community, and that is that even though they keep Shabbos, right, at whatever level, what's their Yetzer Hara for? What's their evil inclination for? To text on Shabbos. To text on a phone. 24 hours go by, you have to text on a phone. Right? Some people say, I don't understand that temptation. There are plenty of addictions that people are addicted to. That I can understand. Right? Yeah, TV, sports, movies, internet, all kinds of things. They're mostly bad. But for some people, come Shabbos, that's it. They just totally shut off. It might be hard for them. It might be very hard for them. Right? But they told, there's Shabbos and there's these other things. But you got some people, they just can't stop. You can't stop. It's just a huge temptation. But the pull of having a thing in your hands, phone in your hands, to be able to tap into who knows what, whenever. I see it all the time. Religious people, not religious people. They got this thing in their hands. It's happened to me a number of times. People got their hand in the phone, their head in the phone. You get bumped into. I'm like, what, why don't you look where you're going, you moron? Like, come on, get your head out of your phone. And it's, saw someone cross the street with everybody, had his head in his phone, crossed the street again with everybody, had his head in his phone. If I would have been in a car, would have beeped, he probably would have dropped dead of a heart attack. I'm not saying everybody's like that. It's addictive. It's addictive. So these things, person goes from one thing to the next. It just gradually gets worse. So try, someone's asked me, I have this desire, to play video games. And it's such a strong desire. I'm not saying there's things forbidden. But I say, why is it? It's so easy to tap into that and it's so hard to learn Torah. So I said, very simple. I said, when, impurity, the Torah says, sticks to you. It's medabik, like glue, sticks to you. Torah, spirituality, is something you have to fight for. Right? There's a famous story, the Baal HaTanya. All right, the first Lubavitcher Rebbe. You had a student want to go to university. So he told the student, you got to be very careful. You go to university, a lot of heretical things you'll hear, different things. You got to be very careful. So the student piped back and said, listen, I sat in your base measures, I sat in your study hall for years. I didn't become so righteous. So if I go to university, I'm not going to be such a Rasha. I'm not going to be so evil. So the Baal HaTanya said, you're making a big mistake. He said, heretical things and this and that, all you have to do to be impure is by touch. Right? If you touch something, you can become impure. He said, you want righteousness? You want holiness? That you got to absorb. That takes time, takes years to absorb. You want the impurity? You can be impure by touch. Very easy. It's very hard to fight against. Right? Because once it's attacked the person, it becomes part of your psyche now. How many people will say they still have images in their heads from certain things they saw, but it's still there somewhere deep in the psyche. So you say, how do I get rid of it? Got to work very hard to get rid of it. Extremely hard. And the evil inclination, we'll want to bring it up. Who knows when? So you're going to say, but I'm at a disadvantage. We're all at a disadvantage. We saw things. We heard things. So what's the antidote? How do you fight against it? There's only one way to fight against it. Torah's the antidote, the Gemara says. Right? Because the Gemara says God made the evil inclination, but he made an antidote. What's the antidote? Torah. Very good. But it goes further. The antidote of Torah only comes with God's heavenly help. You need God's heavenly help to fight the evil inclination. Even with Torah doesn't overcome it by itself. You need God's heavenly help. So you say, wow, we're at a tremendous disadvantage. You're right. Now we say anyone becomes religious, they're going in the right path. It's a miracle. It's a miracle because of all the things we fight against. All the forces of impurity in the world. And it's just very easy to get sucked in. Right? Why wouldn't a person want to spend their time playing a video game? It's a lot more fun. Learning Torah is hard. Listening to Musar, ethics is hard. You want to be better and change is hard. What would you rather have? Life fantasy? So this is reality. Right? This is the reality we live in. So every single day it's a struggle. It's a battle every single day. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, and sometimes we absolutely get ripped to shreds. And what happens if, God forbid, you get ripped to shreds? So you got to fight back. It's a lot harder. When we do things wrong, it's like taking 2 steps backwards, as we always say. So I got to fight with everything we have. No matter what happens. Totally irrelevant what happens. Right? So what's someone going to ask? Someone's going to ask, come on, living inspired is hard, right? Living to what the Torah wants, whether it's a Jew or a non-Jew, right? A JIT, a Noahide, whatever you want to call them, right? Jew in training. Isn't it hard? It's hard. Got to learn new language. Got to learn all these laws, right? Especially as a Jew. As a non-Jew, there's a lot to learn also. People don't think, oh, there's only 7 laws. Yeah, you know what the 7 laws are? It's an umbrella. There are about 60 laws, 70 laws. Yeah, but you have to live your life a certain way. It's not that much to learn. I could keep people busy next 250 years. Person can learn the Torah, can learn the prophets, can learn the writings, can learn Jewish philosophy, Jewish law, what applies to them, a million things. Million things to learn. Someone wants to be Jewish, okay. They want all these extra obligations, very good. But there are a lot of things. As we mentioned many times also, and even non-Jews would have to do as what? As a moral imperative. Obligation? Not necessarily. Right? Or let's say better. According to Noahide laws, they're not liable. It doesn't apply to them. Or it makes sense for them to do it. I'll give one example. Speaking of Lashon Hara, that applies to Jews. Doesn't apply to non-Jews. Right? Because there are many things in the laws of Lashon Hara do not make logical sense according to the Torah. And that's what non-Jews have to keep as Noahides. Things that make logical sense according to the Torah. Now, if I were to take a secular Jew or a non-Jew, and I would say that everybody knows this, you're not allowed to repeat it unless you have certain circumstances. Right? You need certain conditions, let's say better. You need certain conditions in order to repeat it. Very good. Right? But someone's going to say, if I already know it, right? And the whole world, even better. The whole world knows it. It's clear as day. Clear as day. Why can't I repeat it? Right? If it's true, let's say for argument's sake, it's true. Why can't I repeat it? Right? So Chaim says you can't. You have to have certain conditions. And he says, even if you have the conditions, you got to be extremely careful. Because who knows if you went through all the conditions properly. But even so, I would say, well, that wouldn't apply to a non-Jew. True? But who says it's a good thing to speak badly against others in general? I think most people would agree. Speaking badly against others, maybe not the best thing. I think some people would agree to that. Other people can say, go to hell, I can say what I want. They don't like it. What my Rebbe say, go eat kugel. You don't like it, go eat kugel. But it's true. We're not talking about Lashon Hara where it's a lie. All the more so that's a problem. But even if it's true, and everybody knows it, so is that a good thing for it to repeat? Why is it a good thing to repeat? It doesn't do anything for you. What, if a person stole from someone else, what do they have? They have something in their hands. If a person committed Lashon Hara, they said Lashon Hara, what do they have? They don't have anything. Except for the fact they said something that makes them look better and put someone else down. Can you put, is that tangible? No. Is that something I have in the palm of my hand? No. I don't have it in the palm of my hand. So why does the person do it? Because it makes them feel good. Because you put someone down, makes you look better. Makes others look better. Now, some people would say, in such a case, no problem at all. So what if I say it? Oh, I'm going to worry. Their feelings are going to be hurt. Too bad. Let them go eat kugel. Big deal. Let them, let them get tougher, so to speak. Let them toughen up. Or as Whoopi Goldberg would say, suck it up. They have to suck it up, the two sentences. So what? Right? That's what some people will say. Oh, I said it against you? Deal with it. You got to deal with it. You're going to apologize? You got offended? Probably not. They'll say you had to come in anyway. Okay? Whatever it is. A person got to be careful. So is that good for my soul? Let's ask that. Right? And this is what a Jew and a non-Jew has to ask at all times. If they have a question, whether this is good or not. They have to say, is this good for my service to God or not? Now, we could fool ourselves also. We could think it's a good thing and it's really not. Right? But in general, if I have a doubt, a person should ask. They should ask whatever rabbinic authority they have. Ask them, should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? Right? Ask someone who's unbiased, and who would know. Because if you're not sure, you shouldn't do it. But also we get sucked in. We can say, what's so bad? Other people do much worse things. It's not so bad. Maybe it isn't. But, according to where the person is and where they're holding, who says they should do it. Right? So a person has to ask the question. They have to ask the question. Is this good in my relationship to God or not? That's the question. And if it's not, then they shouldn't do it. Problem is, we get sucked into things also. We get tempted, our evil inclination lets us in, we go wild, and it happens. And then we regret it. Okay. It's also good to have regret, to have remorse. That's part of the repentance process for Jews and non-Jews. Right? That's very good. And it's also good to say I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done it. I was wrong. But, according to the Rambam, that's all I have to say on Yom Kippur. Imagine if we had like the Rambam. Yom Kippur service be, over in a matter of minutes. Right? All you have to do, according to the Rambam, on a Torah level, to say I did something wrong. That's it. But all of confession can be summed up by saying Chatanu, I sinned. You know how hard it is to say that? It's very easy. We go through the motions, right? But to admit they've done something wrong, come on, a person got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. They'll give you 10 reasons why. They may all be legit, so what? You still had your hand caught in the cookie jar. So, any of these things we can justify, and we're very good at it. We can justify why this was done, why this was, in this case, why something was said. And we can say they deserved it. Let's say they did. Let's say they absolutely deserved it. Okay. Right? Even if they did, what does God say? No. They didn't fulfill these conditions or that condition or whatever. So they transgressed over it. But they had it coming in your eyes. But look what they did. Okay. Doesn't give free license. People make a mistake. Does not give free license to say what I want, when I want, how I want. Doesn't. We think it does. But we always have to ask the question, right? And that's really the point. We have to ask this question, is this helping me get closer to God or not? And some people will say, yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. You know, they blew off some steam. They got it out of their system. They feel so much better. Okay. But who says it's right? Who says I have a right to do it? Right? Someone here asks what happens if someone says something stupid. They'll bring disrespect to a group of people. They said in front of you another person. Can you correct them? You're allowed to correct them. You know, again, you got to make sure if you're going to give rebuke, right? It shouldn't necessarily be done in front of other people, right? That's the first thing Chofetz Chaim says. Before, one of the conditions is you have to say something to the person in private. Shouldn't say it in public. In public, get worse, right? Certainly in public it could be worse, right? And it make a lot of things worse. So certainly better to rebuke them in private. Even if what comes out, they say things against certain group or whatever it is, okay, but that's between you and them. It's between you and them now in private. If it's in private, you rebuke them, they don't listen, okay, there are other conditions. There are other conditions over here. A person has to realize also, the Gemara says that, a person has a tongue and teeth. Why they have a tongue and teeth? What's one of the reasons? You say, wow, it's obvious, to eat food and this and that. But what's one of the reasons? Because when a person says something, before they say it, it has to go through their tongue and their, at least they might not say it, because it's going to take a few seconds to get it out. It has to go through your mouth and your teeth and whatever. Right? But that doesn't always stop people. Probably many times it doesn't. They just, they just say it anyway. Right? So, so people say, come on, I have to be in control. Certainly as a Jew, the standard's much higher. But I have to be in control of things I say, in my reactions, in my body language. Should be. What about the other person thinks about you not correcting them? Yeah, that's another issue. We have a Talmudic dictum that says, Shtika kahodadam, that if a person's quiet, it's like they agree. Now, sometimes you're in a situation, people are talking. If you don't say anything, it's like you agree. Well, it could be if you said something, you make it worse, or they're not going to listen to you, or there's no way around it. Let's say you can't say something. For whatever reason, you can't say something. In your mind, you have to say it. You have to scream it out in your mind. Right? But yeah, there is an issue. There would be an issue of a person, someone they're speaking Lashon Hara. This comes up a lot. Someone's around other people speaking Lashon Hara. You can't change the conversation. You can't squirm out of it. You can't leave. For whatever reason, you're stuck in this situation for the next number of minutes. You try and change the conversation, doesn't work. If you're there, you don't say anything. So you're right. Then people may say you disagree. Well, say for whatever reason you can't say something. If you can't say something, you got to say it in your mind. You got to say this is terrible, this is this. You got to say it in your mind. But yeah, you should say something. 100%. And what if, this question comes up a lot also, what happens, you say something, and the person says all these things against the Torah, against the, quote unquote, the Old Testament. They say all these terrible things. And they blaspheme against God. Now, are you over Torah prohibition of putting a stumbling block in front of someone? No. They can choose to say what they want. You're going to say, well, I said this and they answered. Yeah, they're going to say it anyway. Doesn't matter whether you said it or not. That's not putting a stumbling block in front of someone. Putting a stumbling block in front of someone is, let's say, and I don't recommend this, someone takes on the Nazirite vow. Nazirite vow means that, they can't eat grapes, can't drink wine, grape juice, any of these things, can't go to a cemetery, right? I'm sure it's going to bother a lot of people. And a person made a Nazirite vow, they're stuck forever because they can't bring a sacrifice. We don't sacrifice today, right? So now, what's putting a stumbling block in front of a Nazirite? They come to your house, you're having a meal, whatever, you bring out wine. You bring out grape juice. That's the problem. That's the Torah prohibition. That you're not allowed to. They could get wine and grape juice somewhere else. You're right. They can go somewhere else get it, but you put it on the table. You put it on the table. That's stumbling block. Here, if I said something and someone reacts in a negative way, and they say, "Wow, I think your belief in God is this, and I think the Torah is this," so did you do anything wrong? No. Yeah, but you defended the Torah, you defended God, so to speak. They say all these terrible things. Is that my problem? Not my problem. I didn't create a Torah prohibition by putting a stumbling block. Putting a stumbling block is something very specific. You put something right in front of them. Right? They're not the same thing. So you're right. If you sit there and say nothing, you sit there and say nothing, then you're right. Then it looks like you agree. Someone once said to me many years ago, they said, whatever, was on the phone, wasn't in person. But, they said, I went to this bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, whatever, for a girl, and she puts on tefillin and reads the Torah. So you know what my answer was? They were all impressed by that. Okay. I knew who the person was. I knew the father was. I met the father a number of times, a few times, whatever. So anyways, the person's telling me this story. So I said, well, you know who you're talking to, right? I said, you know who you're speaking to, right? They're like, oh yeah, I forgot. That was it. That was my way of rebuke. Like, I could have said, well, it's forbidden. You have to know why it's forbidden. It wasn't going to go anywhere. I made a very casual statement. I was like, you're talking to, meaning I don't hold of it. You know that. That was it. Right? Now, I could have let it go. 100% I could have let it go. They still know what my status is. They still know what I hold. Doesn't change anything. Well, at that point I felt, if I don't say anything, maybe they're going to think. I think it's okay. Because they were saying that's impressive. Well, that's forbidden. We hold it's forbidden. Right? Obviously not the topic for now, but we hold it's forbidden. Right? So how can you not say anything? Right? So I knew if I go in this whole conversation, it's going to go nowhere. Totally nowhere. I'm not worried. They're going to make fun. They're going to say this. They're going to say that. Doesn't matter. Right? I know it's going to go nowhere. So I made a casual statement. Right? I said, well, you know who you're talking to, right? They got the point. That was the end of the conversation. Good conversation killer. Right? I'm very good at that. Right? That was it. They didn't bring it back again. They knew that. So there are times, 100%, you should say something. No matter if they're going to listen or not. I mentioned this a few weeks ago by the idea of rebuke. Some people think, they're not going to listen. I don't have an obligation. Not true. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if they're not going to listen or not. You may have an obligation to say something. Depending on the circumstance. The question is, what if you can't? What if for some reason you can't? You got two people talking. They speak louder than you. You're not going to get a word in edgewise. No possible way. Let's say no possible way to say anything. Right? So now you got to think in your mind, I'm against this. This is a terrible thing. Whatever. But for whatever reason, you couldn't say something. But even if you can say something, all right, one thing I forgot to mention is what about body language? Even if you can't say anything, body language should show you disagree. Even if you don't say anything. For that reason. You're going to say, what if a person didn't give over that body language? Then you got to think in your mind. Then you got to think in your mind, this is terrible. Right? This is a terrible thing. Right? Otherwise, you're right. then sometimes it looks like you agree over here. All right. Someone here asks, how often should a Noahide beg Hashem to help overcome tests? Every single day. A Jew's got an obligation to pray 3 times a day. Noahide can pray as many times as they want, or not. But anytime you pray, I would put that as part of the prayer. We say every day. We say every day in the morning, God, you shouldn't bring us to tests. That's what Jews say. So we say that every morning. Can non-Jews say that? 100%. Can they say that more than once? Yeah, say as many times as you want. See, we have tests. We have trials. They're hard. Right? So we should pray on a daily basis. Many times we should say, take this, if we have a test, take it away. Whatever the test is. Or in this case, in general, God, I need you to help me overcome tests. 100%. You do more than once, you can say it multiple times. Absolutely can say many, many times. Right? That's definitely not a problem. Right? Totally not a problem. We should pray that many times. And it makes sense. It makes sense that would be the case. Because how are we going to get helped otherwise? How is it possible to overcome tests without God's help? You're going to say, I'll pray a lot. I'll learn a lot. I'll try and change my mindset. Yeah, these are all good. Changing our mindset, yeah, that's crucial. Crucial. At the same time, I need God's help. Definitely need God's help over here. Everything I do is good. Potentially is good to help in this situation. But see, I need the X factor to help me get through it. So any test we have, or let's say better, the question was, can you pray, for God to take them away? Yeah. That was hard, that we shouldn't have any. Yeah. And a person's going through a difficulty, you can pray, take that away. Right? There's the catch-22 though. What's the catch-22? Catch-22 is we pray every day, Jews pray every day and say that God should bring us to trial, any trials and tribulations. Very good. We don't grow without them. If everything's going good, we don't pray as well. We have not a lot of money in the bank. We don't pray as well. We don't feel, we're lacking anything over here. Right? Even if other things are going wrong, we don't, there are only certain things that are going to draw us to pray stronger. Health issues, livelihood issues, other things. But everything's going good, everything's going good. You don't seem to have too many trials over here. So then what's going to be? You're not going to pray for them. Certainly not. But 100, again, it's a catch-22. Because if everything's good, everything in our lives more or less is going well, then what do I need? What do I got for? What do I need to pray? Take away trials. I don't have any. Right? Or I don't have so many. Right? But most people have trials. Everybody, has trials one way or another. But trials help us grow. That's why I named my group Pain is Your Gain. Right? Exactly that. It's a gain. Right? We look at it, things are, whatever the test is, how hard it is, and, and it may very well be. May very well be. What's the, we don't see what the benefit is. Or we just get knocked down by it too hard. Let's say. But anyone who's gone through difficult trials that made them who they are, defined who they are. And they wouldn't be the same without them, true? I think most people would admit that. And, at the same time, you would ask them, would you have rather never had the test? Now, some people would say no. Some people would say this test, as hard as it was, changed me in so many different ways. Other people would say, depending on what the test was, I would have been much happy without it. We don't have the choice. Right? Some things, again, we've done to ourselves. So we transgressed Compton's 614th commandment, don't be stupid. Right? We did it to ourselves. So we have no one to blame except ourselves. At the same time, there are a lot of other things that happened because of what we had to go through. That God wanted our soul for whatever reason, as payback in a previous life, that we had to go through certain things. Not because we did it. Right? We did it to ourselves. It could be, as well, I'll throw this out there, it could be for something where a person has a dormant character trait that's never going to come out unless certain things happen. So what does God do? He orchestrates in a certain way for that to come out. Now you're going to say, come on. Why do I have to go through this, that, and the other thing? In order for that to come out. That's the way God did it. That's the way it ended up working out. And that's how you got the message. Are we in control of that? No. Right? There could be what we'll see as maybe a lot of random events that occur that got a person to a certain place. But all these events are significant in and of themselves. Because without one of them, you don't get to B, right? In other words, you had event A, whatever that was. Event A had certain repercussions, took you to B. B took you to C, C took you to D, and D took you to X, Y, and Z. We don't always connect the dots, but, if you look at, I always use this as an example, if you look at the book of Esther, the book of Esther that we read on Purim, there are a lot of single events that if you look at the event itself, not significant in many ways. Some more significant than others, let's say. But if you look at all the events together, it's like connect the dots. I needed this event to get to this event, to get to this, to get to that, to get to the other thing, eventually to get to the downfall of Mr. Haman himself. Right? Mr. Haman himself. But one event wasn't enough. I needed all these other events. You tell me the book of Esther does not have God's name mentioned once. True? Does not mention God's name once. But you see God's behind the scenes the entire time. You see how all these events connect. Right? It's a huge thing. Unbelievable thing. How everything connects. But a person can say, you look at all the events as being insignificant. Okay? But they're not insignificant. Because look where it got. Look where it ends up. So to speak. Now, this might be a little bit of a jump, but I don't think so. And it's not a leap of faith. What about our own lives? Right? Whoever's going to listen to this video, everyone's got a story. Everyone's got a story. How they got here. Some stories are similar. Some stories, maybe not. But everyone's got a story. Everyone connects their own dots. Right? How they got to a certain place. There may be some things in common. Could be. Right? But, not everyone's story is obviously the same. But they could pinpoint this happened and then that happened, the other thing happened. And it could be, 10 things happened, 20 things happened, 50 things happened until they got to a certain point. Could very well be. Right? But each event, when you look back, you say, I can't believe I did this or I did that or whatever. But each thing I would say is like a stepping stone. You had to go through this to get to this, to get to that. You might have taken steps backwards, sideways, put things on ice, right? Put things on hold. Could be any number of things. But see, every part of life, if we have the ability to see, is a stepping stone. It's gaining knowledge. The knowledge doesn't go to waste. It's how I use it. It's what I do with it. It's how I implement it in my life. Now, again, back to what we originally said. Do we always do the right thing with what we're given? No. Could we waste the opportunities? Yes. There are people out there, and again, most people I deal with, have come out of Christianity and been lied to and duped by the church, and one of the last things they'll do is start looking at other information, because what's the hardest thing to do? The hardest thing is if I don't believe in JC, I'm going to fry in hell forever. And that's a scary proposition. It's a scary proposition because what if he's right? What if all these Christians are right? So as a last resort, and it's usually a last resort, when they don't have answers, they have a lot of questions, and they can't live with the inconsistency anymore, that's when they look into the other side. But it's only till they hit like the end. There are a lot of people out there, they talk a good game, but they're not intellectually honest. Right? There are some people that say, oh, you show me contradiction, I'll look into it. Some people. Most people not that way. Right? But that's a hard thing to give up. It's a hard thing to give up because what if the other side is right? And if the other side, if we're wrong, meaning they believe in JC, if they're wrong, then what happens? Or let's say better, if they're right, then I'm going to fry now forever. Or a lot of people tell me this. Okay, I'll take my chances. Right? But according to them, someone who's going to come out of that, it's going to be hard. Unless they 100% believe it's a crock. And it's totally not true. But up until that point, they're going to hang on for dear life. They're going to hang on for dear life. Because maybe the other side is right. And if the other side is right, I have no recourse. Now, there are some people, who will say, I don't have answers to a lot of these questions, but I'm not giving it up. I'm not giving it up. It gives me too much pleasure. Whatever it is. Okay? It's their choice. But it takes big people, to do that, which I have all the respect for, because they're going against the tide. They're not just drinking the Kool-Aid, over here. They see there are a lot of problems with it, but to leave it, to go against family, to go against friends, have no support, it's kind of hard. Right? It's extremely hard. And it makes perfect sense. A person who comes back to Judaism when they weren't religious, can also go through similar hardship. You lose family, you lose friends. It happens. Right? It probably happens more often than it doesn't. There are, some people I know, their whole families became religious. Okay? Is that the norm? Not the norm. Definitely not the norm. Usually the other way. But, that being said, you got to have real strong shoulders. Right? And you got to have real strong beliefs because family can put a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure. I think I mentioned this last week. I know somebody that, furious with their sister for this reason. For this reason. That, first of all, they were in contact anyway. Right? Even though this person became religious, let's say 30 years ago more. But now their nephew's interested in Judaism, came to Israel, then the person got turned on. The sister's furious. Furious. Right? Not on speaking terms now. Why? Because her son's not becoming religious. It's not what she wanted. Didn't fit her world outlook. More than that. Person's livid. Livid. Is that situation ever going to be rectified? I have no idea. The person said, what can I do? It's like returning their soul to them. It's like a Shavas Aveda, returning a lost object, their soul. Right? So they were ripe. Person was ripe, was looking, set them up in the right way, and that was it. It's like a fish to water. But the mother is furious. Furious. We made a deal. The other person didn't make that deal. She heard what her sister said, okay? So what? You don't have an obligation now to help. You know what the repercussions could be, okay? What do you do in that situation? You got to give them what they need. It doesn't matter what the outcome is going to be. And even, this is, I'll never speak to you again. How could you do it? You ruined my whole family, blah, blah. Okay, she'll have to take that. It might be a hard thing to take. I understand. I understand. But what's your obligation over here? What's your obligation as a Jew? I remember someone once told me, I had a relative once, they were here for a bar mitzvah, a bat mitzvah, whatever it was, and, I was speaking to, some family members, and they said, don't convert them, right? They were, 14, 15, whatever it was. All right, don't convert them. So what they mean? They meant, don't make them be like you. Next thing you know, they're going to start keeping kosher, wear a black hat. We don't want that. Bad enough you did it. We don't want it. That was the message. Right? So my answer was? Very simple answer. I said, I can't do that anyway. They said, what do you mean? I said, you know what we're talking about? Like, what are you talking about? I said, basketball. Sports. I'm brainwashing them? Of course they're afraid. What are they afraid of? Afraid of the truth. That's what they're afraid of. My son who was into married once told me, he said, you can't convert my wife. She's not convertible. Okay. She doesn't have to convert. You're the one with the problem, not her. Oh, they don't like to hear that. All right. She got no issue at all. She has no obligation to convert. And not even do a bogus conversion. She got no obligation. It's not her problem. She has to keep the Noahide laws. That's what she has to do. She can't be a Christian, but okay, it's her choice. Right? Totally her choice. That's also a stupid thing to say. Like I'm out there trying to convert this person. Not my issue. Maybe it should be, but it's not. Just do what I can, maybe through her to bring him back, whatever, but it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Right? Not the way I see it. Okay? Maybe after 120 years, I had a more obligation to try and do more things. Maybe. I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. But, but again, what are they afraid of? What are they afraid of? I had a conversation, I'll just throw this out there. I had a conversation with somebody, a number of years ago. And the person said, I'm a good person. So I had an opportunity. I said, good, very good. What's your definition? What's your definition of God? I had this whole conversation. Basically box this person into a corner. And what did the person answer? Because they didn't have any answers. You know what the answer was? I don't know how we got on this conversation, stopping right now. You want to talk to me? You change the subject. We're not talking about this. He knows I had him. It's like, I got the mouse caught in the cage. Yeah, it's caught in the cage. Can't squirm out now. Got him in a corner. What's he gonna do? What's he gonna do? Admit they're wrong? No. Admit their life's been a waste? No. They're gonna say we're not having this conversation. Happen? Right? Yeah, again, the point is we may have to take unfavorable favorable positions. Okay. Who says there's an obligation to be politically correct? Nobody. Right? No obligation to be politically correct. There are issues. There are issues that you can't get around. No matter, we always say you cannot turn the Torah into a pretzel. Some things you can't get around. Now, people may not like it. Copin's answer would be, okay, so you go eat kugel, you don't like it. Okay? This is what the Torah says. Is the Torah anti-pig? Maybe. We're anti-homosexuals? Maybe. We have an image problem? It could be. But it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything. Right? Torah says, Jews can't eat certain things. Okay? Oh, there's no problem with trichinosis. Yeah, but that's not why we keep kosher. And nothing to do with tricking noses. And nothing to do with cooking things and this and that. That's not the issue. People may not like your world outlook. Hey, I'm not saying you have to start a fight with someone, based on what we believe, but 100% there'll be times we said before you have to say something, and you can't worry what the reaction is going to be. Yeah, the Torah says this. It does. I had someone say once, as a secular Jew, they say, hey, I heard something where if I cook something for you from beginning to end, it makes it non-kosher. Is that true? I said, yeah. It's like, oh, gonna ask the question, gave him an answer. That was it. Would they want a more detailed answer? They weren't necessarily so interested in a more detailed answer. Over the years they've learned different things. Fine. Someone will say, well, that makes us look really bad. Can't worry about what we look like or not. And if a secular Jew or a non-Jew touches wine that's been opened, that hasn't been boiled or pasteurized, right? It's not called mevushal. It's not cooked. If it's open, if the wine is open, right? Jew's not allowed to, a Jew's not allowed to drink it. That secular Jew, they can drink it. They can drink the rest of the whole bottle if they want, right? The non-Jew can drink it. We can't drink it. We'll call it spiritual cooties for lack of a better term, right? But we can't drink it. There's such a law in the books? Yeah. Oh, that's terrible. That makes fun of secular Jews and non-Jews. You want to understand why? You're not going to like the reason anyway, but I could explain to you why, but you don't like it, okay? Oh, that doesn't fit my world outlook. Who cares? Who cares what your world outlook is? Someone gave a bunch of sweaters to my kids, in the winter, and it said 100% wool. So I said, very good. It's probably not a problem, but I have to get a check for shotness. Right? Jews not allowed to wear wool and linen together. They're like, why? I was like, I'm not really sure. It's a decree. It's a decree we don't necessarily understand. They're like, but why? I said, I don't know. There's certain decrees, the Torah made. Keeping kosher, one of them. That's one of them. So they said, well, if you can't give me a reason, why would I keep it? And I said, if I could give you a reason, what if I gave you 10 reasons? Would you keep it? Like, maybe. Yeah, it's a joke. Because they say, oh, I don't like that reason. Oh, I don't like this reason. Right? Let's say I came up with 5 reasons. They can just go, bink, I don't like this reason, I don't like that reason, I don't like the other reason. Okay, that doesn't mean it's not true. You just don't you just don't want to do it. Different issue. It's a different issue. So just, let's keep in mind, just because the Torah tells me something, and, let's say there's a reason given, right? Let's say there's a reason given. Doesn't mean it's the reason. Could be 100 reasons why. Rabbis didn't always tell us the reason. But the Torah doesn't give us reasons anyway. The Torah just says, don't do this, don't do that, don't do the other thing. It doesn't give us reasons, a law book. The rabbis came up with a lot of reasons why we do certain things. And there's certain things they say we don't understand, but you have to keep it anyway. Right? That's our obligation. Now, don't we have to try and understand to the best of our ability? True. It's also very true. All right, but at the end of the day, most things are a decree. 80% or more of the Torah does not make logical sense. It doesn't make logical sense. You know what? God said, I don't care. Shut up and eat the matzah. You got to eat all this matzah in 35 seconds and, whistle Dixie, however you do that. Kind of hard when you eat all this matzah because then your mouth is totally dry. And you're like, you can't do it. It's very hard. But okay. There are a lot of things we don't understand. So what? Doesn't mean I have to do it if I don't understand it. And even if the reason doesn't exist anymore, why we keep it? So there are many rabbinical authorities that you still have to keep it. Why? Because the rabbis didn't give, all the reasons why we do things. They may give, a few, a handful, but that's not necessarily the reason. Could be any number of reasons why. Okay. But we're not necessarily given all the reasons. So therefore, many rabbinical authorities will say, if the reason doesn't apply, we still do it. 100%, we still do it. So we have to try and understand things to the best of our ability. True? That 100% is true. At the same time, Many things we'll do because God said it, we do it. Now, the Rambam, in his Guide for the Perplexed, right? The Rambam wrote this book because there were so many Jews, going off because of secular philosophy. So he wrote this book to explain, why these secular philosophers, obviously weren't true and all that. So he goes to, he speaks quite a bit about the rationale behind the mitzvahs. Right? The book's not so in vogue today. It's written in a very philosophical language. It was written in Arabic, then it was translated into Hebrew, and then from Hebrew went to, translated into English. Really, other language, I think, also. Right? Not such an easy work to go through. Regardless, right? It's not so in vogue today. Why do I say that? Most people do what they want. It's not about philosophy. And even a person's gonna say, "Wow, if you don't give me a reason, why would I keep it?" They're not looking into Jewish philosophy. They're not reading books and saying, "Oh, maybe it's true, maybe it's not." They can care less. They want to do what they want to do. Period. Based on desire. That's all it's based on. So the Rambam's book was written at a time, where, answered up a lot of people's questions. But today it's not the case. I mean, there are some people who look at it here and there, but I wouldn't say it's a used book that much. Right? It doesn't fit today. Because most people, the biggest question they may ever ask, I put ketchup or mustard on my hot dog. Right? That's where they're holding. They're not holding by anything else. They're not holding by odds. This, it's that, the other thing. Oh, maybe I missed something. No, they're not interested. Like someone once said to me, they said, I mentioned something about life after death. What's going to happen in the next one, this and that. They said, can you explain to me in 30 seconds? Give it to me in a soundbite. Now, if I would have spoken for 5 seconds, they would have shut me down. So I said, yeah, I'll send you a link. If they watch it, I have no idea. I'll send you a link. That was my answer. Because they're not interested. You have to see if they're interested or not. But in this case, I know. This person is not interested. I said, I'll send you a link. They watch it, I have no idea. I did what I need to do, and that was it. But they're really interested in an answer? They weren't. There are some people who would be. Give them a book to read. They look at it, this and that. A lot of people just ask questions. They may want an answer, but they don't, it doesn't affect them. Does not affect them. Does not affect them at all. So, you got to know when to answer a question. That's why in the Haggadah, right? That's why in the Haggadah it says, in Passover, there are 4 sons. There's a wise son, a wicked son, a simple son, and one that does not ask. So the wicked son asks a similar question to the wise son. The wise son, you give him an answer. The wicked son, it says you blunt his teeth. Why do you blunt his teeth? Right? It says you blunt his teeth, and he would have been there. In Egypt, they never would have been redeemed. Why? Why so severe? Why not bring him close? Why not at least give him an answer? Try and draw him close to Torah mitzvahs. Because this person's not asking a question. Right? He's making a statement. When you make a statement, the answer is, oh, that's the answer. Why? You're not asking a question. And even if they would be asking a question, they're asking it in a specific way where the question itself is an agenda. If the question itself is an agenda, I don't have to answer. They didn't ask me anything. And, they say, I think the Torah discriminates against women. You know what the answer is? Okay. And I think the Torah is anti-pork and anti-non-Jews. Okay. That's the answer. Right? They start saying all these other things. Why do you keep saying okay? Because you didn't ask me a question. They said, if I were to ask you and I thought that this is that, what would you say? That's a question. So the evil son, you don't give an answer. Because you give an answer, you're just going to antagonize. Because the evil son has an agenda. When someone's got an agenda, they're not asking anything. And whatever you answer, it's not going to matter. Right? Famous story of Chaim Brisker, the Torah Giants, 200 years ago. 200 years ago, right? He had a student that went off, that went sour. He saw the student years later. He asked him, what happened to you? And he said, I had questions. I had a lot of questions. So Chaim asked him, when did you have questions? Did you have questions while you were learning in Yeshiva? We had questions when you left. I had questions when I left. So Chaim said, I can't answer an answer. That question's not a question. If it would have been in the guise of, I'm learning, I have questions, one thing. Once you're out of that, you're out of that structure, then your questions become an agenda. Your agenda, you can't answer because they're, it's like you're trying to answer an answer. You can't, right? It's impossible. Again, I wouldn't say, most people are that hostile. There are people that will ask questions, right? But, you have to gauge. You have to gauge. There are times people will make statements. I mean, they're statements. They're not questions. If they're statements, I don't have to answer. Because the statement is like an answer. An answer, you can't answer. Right? So you have to sort of, what's the word? You have to sort of strip it away. You have to see where the question's coming from. And again, I don't think most people out there today are really that hostile. There are some, I will say. There are some, but most people ask a question. So you have to see. If someone says, where's God during the Holocaust? Oh, I got a great book. It's called Hasidic Tales of the Holocaust. You want to read it? No, it's just a question I make rabbis, I ask rabbis and it makes them fidget. No, so okay. I can watch the hair I don't have in my head grow. I'm like, come on. I have a book, great book that's going to answer the question. Want it? No. Okay, so that's serious. You have to see. You have to see when a person, asks a question, they have an agenda. You have to see what the agenda is. If they don't have an agenda, they want to ask, okay. If you have an answer, very good. If you don't have an answer, say, listen, not the world's greatest Torah scholar, I'll get back to you. At least you're being honest. Right? But if they're just, asking something they know you can't answer, then, that's a waste of time, right? Many cases, many cases, waste of time. So I would say most people I probably come in contact with over the years, they have questions. They have good questions. Obviously, some are better than others, but, whatever it is, because they want an answer. And sometimes, there aren't answers. Just, God said it, we do it. Sometimes that is the answer, right? There are some here and there, that'll ask things just to try and get to you, get under your skin. Okay. All right, put that much effort in, because where it's, eventually where it's coming from. They're just throwing this out there, that out there. I had somebody actually interesting ask me something probably, I would say 2 weeks ago, close to a month ago. The person, whatever, was was a Christian, asked me certain things, and they're like, no, don't show me this. I want your opinion. I want your opinion. Like, don't listen to anyone else. The person asked me certain things. So I said, I gave him an answer. I gave the person an answer. I said, yeah, here's the answer. That was it. I haven't heard from them since. I don't know. Maybe they fell off the face of the map. I don't know. But I would assume they would have come back with, 10 other things or 10 other questions. I boxed them in. I boxed them in because I said, it doesn't mean like that. This is what it says, but this is what it's referring to, blah, blah, blah. Right? It can't be referring to what you're saying for a lot of different reasons. I went through piece by piece. This reason, that reason, the other reason. That was it. Check, mate. I knocked them out. Totally knocked them out. But I was expecting to come back. I was expecting something. So again, either they fell off the face of the map or they're still doing research. Okay. So there are people that you give them something, they might be interested in what you have to say. Right? They might look at the material. They might not. It depends where they're coming from. Right? So, a person has to know. I'm not going to say you're going to have all the answers at your fingertip, but you have to know what's a question, what's not a question, and what's someone just trying to get under your skin, so to speak. So, just back to what we said before, that's, hearing rebuke, we don't want to hear. Nobody wants to hear. Like I said, I don't know so many fans of hearing rebuke, in general. But if someone's doing it because they're your friends, and it's coming from a pure heart, and it's coming through love and looking out for you and trying to help you, right? Before you rip them to shreds, the person has to make that clear. I want to help you, trying to help you, this and that. How could you do such a thing? It still might be hard to hear. Right? I'm not going to say not, because still could be very, very hard to hear. But at the same time, if a person looks deep inside, they'll see that's the case. Right? But that helps us grow. That's why Rabbi Yeshua says, what's a good way? What's the proper way a person should live? He says a good friend. And that's what good friends do. They help you out when you're in a pinch. They give you strength, different things. Doesn't mean they're a yes person. Right? Some people like friends that are just yes people. They'll do whatever you say. Right? But most people probably not like that. Right? So here it makes it, it's easier to accept if you see where it's coming from. And it's coming from the right place. It might sting. It might be hard to hear. But the person's doing it for your best interest. If they're not doing it for your best interest, they're not going to be your friend much longer. Right? If they have other goals or whatever. Right? Someone here mentioned earlier, that they had a friend save their life, but also, rob them, and other people also. Okay, you can have that. You can definitely have that. But at the same time, if someone's looking out for your best interests, can they change and be bad people? Yeah, can happen. Can they stay your friend for a long time? Yeah. Good friends are hard to come by. Right? And that, I think, without making overgeneralizations, I think most people understand. It's not so easy. It's not so easy. But if it's done, again, if it's done for the sake of heaven, and they're there to help you, that's a huge thing. Someone asks if a Noahide or a Jew, it doesn't really matter. Let's say they would pray, get healed. Let's say they had bipolar. They were bipolar, right? And they got healed. And it was an absolute miracle, let's say. Would God make that happen? Could. He can do anything, right? There are people getting cured of all kinds of things. Yeshua Hashem Keherifai. Salvation of God can come with the blink of an eyelash. Blink of an eyelash. Right? God can make anything happen. The thing is, the idea is that, it's hard to see open miracles today. We don't see open miracles today. Right? A lot of things are clouded in nature, in general. So to see something that's like an absolute miracle, I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm not going to be a heretic here. I'm not going to say that, it cannot happen, right? But most likely it's hidden within nature. There could be a new cure. Any number of things can happen. You can say, well, that's an open miracle. Could be. Right, could be. But let's say in this case, right, we're not talking about new medication. Something happens, they wake up one day, they're not bipolar. No medication, no nothing. Could that happen? Yeah, but, I would say it's, probably very small chance something like that will happen. Is it impossible to happen? No. I'm not going to say not, but, I would bet all my money the other way and say that, yeah, if a person had a certain, let's say, bipolar, any disease, let's say a person, God forbid, had cancer. Let's say they had cancer, right? And it spread or whatever. And, doctors give up all hope. They wake up the next day, nothing hurts, everything's good. They go in for a scan, it totally disappeared. Totally disappeared. Now, what were the odds of such a thing happening? Very slim. Could it happen? Could. There are people that, were diagnosed with certain things and it disappeared overnight. Many cases like that. they thought the worst, and this guy come in for this scan, that scan, who knows what, and then they see it's nothing. They see it was really nothing. Right, but if someone actually had something, they had whatever disease, and then they wake up the next day, they go in for tests, and it's totally gone. Could it happen? It could happen. Is it probable that it's going to happen? No. We don't rely on miracles today. Right? It's not impossible. I'm not going to say it's impossible. Right? Could God make it happen? God can do anything. He can make anything disappear. Whatever sickness a person has. Right? He's the one in charge. Could he do an open miracle? He could. Not going to say not to, a Jew or non-Jew, doesn't matter. Right? 100% he could. Would he? So I can't answer that. Right? Is it possible? Yeah, it is. Is it probable? Again, I would say in most cases, this doesn't happen. A person that has cancer doesn't go away overnight, or any other disease. It doesn't change overnight. Right? Could it happen? Again, I'm not going to be a heretic over here. It could happen. Is it probable? No. Most likely it's not. Doesn't mean it can't happen. Can God do outright miracles? Yeah, he can. Anytime. Anytime. Can he do it, without anything happening? You wake up, nothing happened. Yeah. Would I bet all my money, that it could happen in a person's situation? God could do it or he couldn't do it. Right? Meaning God could decide he wants to heal the person, get rid of it. He could. If he decides he doesn't want to, he won't. Right? Doesn't mean he can't do miracles. Certainly can. Yeah. Any other questions? Or any general questions? All right. So no other questions. I'm going to sign out. Just want to make a couple announcements. One, again, started this group last week. Pain is your gain, and anyone can sign up. And it's all about how to deal with, disappointment, self-esteem, family issues, other things. So, I'm trying to put up a few videos a week and different posts and different things. So anyone can sign up for that. I also have a YouTube channel, same thing. All my videos go up there as well. It's called Pain is Your Gain. Tomorrow, Sunday, I'm going to have a class on the book of Leviticus chapter 16, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Israel time. So I do the Pirke Avos every Saturday, 2 o'clock Eastern time, 9 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, or beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. You can send me an email at chaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBIChaimCoffman @gmail.com. Wish everyone a good middle of the day or end of the day.